Hey there, I'm Mike from One Stop Co-op Shop, and welcome to our Kickstarter preview for Dice Throne Adventures. Now, just to be clear, this is not a full 5-in-5 review. I've only played the demo with a small portion of the full content in the game. So what I'll be talking about here is what's great about the game so far, and what I find concerning and hope gets addressed or changed. The first great thing about Dice Throne Adventures is that they maintain the awesome competitive dueling combat from the original Dice Throne, but in a cooperative setting. For those who haven't played Dice Throne, it marries tense dice rolling with really nuanced card play mechanics into a great dueling game that I personally love. And they found a way to keep everything streamlined, have the AI do very simple, easy to resolve effects, and keep basically every element of Dice Throne working perfectly well here. Another great thing is how cooperative the game can be, which I was a little worried about since it was a competitive dueling game to begin with. Most cards can be used to boost your allies or yourself, or to stop an enemy from hurting an ally. Also, on the adventuring map, you can join together and shoot people together, or go off on your own and try to find your own treasures, but they also keep all the leveling and gold balanced so everyone benefits whenever anyone defeats an enemy. Overall, it works really well and makes me interested in other players' turns when I can help them out or want to see what they're doing. Another thing that's a lot of fun is how it handles upgrading as you progress through the campaign. At the end of every play, whether you defeat the current boss or not, you'll get to add some cards to your deck. These cards are really fun. Some of them are upgraded versions of old cards, but some of them are equipment that stays out and gives you cool powers every single turn. It's super exciting. And in a small but genius little mechanic, you can discard any of these cards to draw a replacement card, so they never lead to deck bloat. Your deck stays the same tight piece of work that it always is. Finally, something I adore about Dice Throne Adventures that I think is better than the original competitive game is how tough your resource management is. Here, instead of negative status effects and positive status effects and the cards in your hand only applying to this one single 1v1 fight, you have to consider what you're going to do for the current fight against this 10 health enemy. What do you want to save for the boss down the line? What do you want to spend? What do you want to lose? What do you want to use? It's really exciting and gives you tough choices every single turn of the game. Now, there are three things I'm concerned about, and I've told them to the designers, so I'm hopeful that they'll get fixed or at least have some kind of variance in the game. My main concerns are, first, the potential for downtime with 3 or 4 players. In 2 players, you're still always involved because one of you rolls for the enemies. But with 3 or 4, especially with newer players who take a while to look at their cards and figure out their turns, it could take a while. Now, if your group is easily invested in what goes on with other players and gets excited with it, this shouldn't be a problem, but it's just something to be concerned about if you're going to play with mostly 4. The other part of this is player elimination. Now, in my games with 2 or even 3 players, I've never been eliminated until I got to the boss, so I've never had to sit for more than like a minute, and it hasn't been a problem. But as you go up to 4 players, your character's health goes down, which means you could have a really freak turn where an enemy defeats you very early on. And that means you might have to sit for 30 minutes or 45 minutes, which could not be too much fun. Secondly, the way the bosses upgrade and use the combat points they've earned throughout a scenario is a little bit wonky right now. If you watch my playthrough, you'll see that even though I took pretty much the most direct path to the boss, they upgraded completely fully, but I still had to cycle through all these cards to get to the exact same result. And to be clear, that's what's happened in all my plays. The way that the CPs are spread out right now, the boss is basically going to upgrade fully every single time. What I hope the designers do is lower the average CP being added to the boss, and make a more fluid way of adding those upgrade cards to them, so that they become more interesting and varied each time you fight them. Finally, my last potential concern is for the campaign structure itself. So you have to defeat 4 bosses to win the game and unlock some new content which you can then play with again. But if you fail to defeat a boss, you have to play that whole stage over again, though you do get a few upgrades in the process. But the game is tuned super hard right now, and I don't think they have any difficulty variants to kind of make it easier or harder yet. So I could easily see players new to Dice Throne having to play the first level 3 or 4 or 5 times in a row before they're finally strong enough to beat the boss. I think that's a big ask for players, so I hope the designers either give some difficulty variants to mess around with that, or something I would love to see is a simplified crawl mode where you just play through until you fight one boss, and that can kind of be a one-off experience if you just want to show somebody the game for a night. With those potential concerns out of the way, I gotta say I am loving Dice Throne Adventures. Now again, I was an easy sell because Dice Throne is already one of my favorite dueling games, but I think the choices here are so tough, the tension is amazing, the player variety is clearly incredible. I love trying out different characters. I love the idea of playing Dice Throne with my son or with my wife or solo, just getting this amazing dice combat on the table all the time. And honestly, if they address some of my concerns, I think this could be a total slam dunk of a game. Good gaming, everyone, and I'll see you at the next stop.